Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast. Today we are going to talk about one of Beşiktaş's targets, or rumored targets, at least if you're to believe Fabrizio Romano. And by the time this makes it to YouTube, maybe the transfer will have already come to a conclusion. But for those of you watching on Patreon and getting early access, we're going to talk today about Serginho, the Portuguese, or also from Cape. I believe he plays for Cape Verde, the Portuguese winger that currently plays for Viborg in Denmark. And joining me right now is somebody who follows Viborg very closely, Danni Kristensen. Danny, thank you very much for joining us on the show and for giving us your insight and your time, of course.
Yeah, pleased to be could join you.
Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, Danny, so people know exactly what it is you do and how you follow the team and so on?
Yeah, I'm the local reporter, sports reporter in Viborg, and I'm following the team very closely. I almost use all my time on following Viborg FF. I've been doing so for more than 10 years, and I'm watching trainings, watching all the games, also the practice games and the test games and so on, and following them throughout all Denmark when they're playing in the Superliga. And also in a couple of days I'm going to Spain where Viborg is setting up a training camp before the season starts. So yeah, Viborg FF is almost my entire work life is going to following Viborg FF and the players and the staff and so on.
It sounds fantastic. So you must be a fan of the team as well, then, from your childhood, or?
No. Here in Denmark, it's best that you aren't that much a fan of the club. When you've been living in Viborg in 20 years, and when you're following the team so closely, you all obviously you are going to have a like for the team. You like the people around it, but not a
Mhm.
fan. I need to be harsh and be critical about the Viborg FF, and I also need to write objectively about them. So no, not a fan, but I like Viborg and I like the people in Viborg.
Yeah. How are Viborg doing in the league right now in Denmark?
It's in a couple of years ago they got a very good season. They were finished fourth, and it was the best ever in the club. But the following season it was little bit of a harsh season because a lot of profiles were going away and they needed to make new profiles. And so last season it was a little bit disappointing that they finished eighth and didn't do anything. But in terms of the budget in Viborg, an eighth place as number eight in the Superliga is okay. Also,
Mm-hmm.
now people hope that this season would be a season where it's going up again, but they are still in the eighth place. So it's a little bit in between. You're hoping you're going to build a new great team up. That's where we are right now. You can see a lot of potential in the team, and people are hoping for more than this place as number eight. And in this season also they got a little bit the bit greatest success is in the cup, where they are ready for the semi-final, where they are meeting Copenhagen in April and May, and it will if they're going through to the final, it will be the first final in 25 years. So there's good things, and there's also things where it's a little bit disappointing.
And how central is Serginho to that ambition to move forward in the league and perhaps to the cup final?
Serginho was very central because that was why I mentioned before that it is a kind of rebuilding the team. Serginho was bought 1.5 season ago, where we both sold a very big profile, Elias Achuri, who's playing in Copenhagen now and Tunisian international. Yeah, that was a very big offensive profile, and back then they bought Serginho as a replacement. And in the first season, it was very much up and down with Serginho. He didn't prove himself. You could see there was a great potential in him, and he got abilities like no other in the team. But also you saw that he was not stable as a player. He had the games where he was far away and didn't succeed with anything. But you could also see games where he did things that no one else in the Superliga could do, and he made some spectacular assists and goals last season. And this season, it seemed like now he is central. He became the number one right winger, and he made a lot of assists. He both in the set pieces. He made a lot of assists because he is really good serve with his legs when he's doing the crosses from the corner, and also still he's the one who can create something. So he's a central player in this rebuilding of the Viborg team.
And if you were to rank him in the Superliga, because you already said that he can do things that no other players can do, would you say he's one of the more elite talents in the league right now?
I think he's one of the more elite talents. I think he's topping a lot of lists regarding assists and regarding the ability to create big chances for his teammates. He's topping these. He's not the most expensive player. There's bigger players from bigger clubs. I think there's more expensive, and I think they are also rated higher than him. But he's one of the players who really made a name for himself in Denmark, and one of the players that this fall in the first part of the season, people were talking about Serginho in the first part, where he was one of the best players in the league and really made himself a big name. And I think he's one of the players that people also were looking forward to see in the spring in the Superliga if he's still here.
Yeah. Do you expect him to still be at Viborg in the spring?
It's hard to say because the history was that he played very well in the first part of the season, and then he got an injury and only just came back for the last games. Now there's been these rumors linking him to Beşiktaş, but I haven't heard anything else than you have heard, that Fabrizio Romano rumor, and that there should be some interest, but nothing concrete yet. And he's played in the practice games, and he's still here in Viborg, and I think he is also still going to the training camp. So I don't know any more than you. But yeah, it could happen fast in football. So you never know.
Are the club denying that there's been any offers, any concrete contact with clubs, or are they keeping it close to the vest?
I think they're keeping it close, but everybody know that one of the players that is interested in is Serginho. So I think that obviously there's been interest. Obviously there has been clubs asking about the price and so on. I'm sure about that.
Mm-hmm. And he is the current set piece taker for the team then as well, because you mentioned that he got quite a few assists on set pieces too.
Yeah, he is often it is the man who's taking the corners, and he's very, very good at that. And you could see that the time where he was away, not taking the crosses, it was a little bit harder for Viborg to create goals from set pieces. And the minute he came back, you could see that there's a lot of quality in his set pieces. So in that point, he's a very, very important player, and he's good at it.
Mm-hmm. And how would you describe him stylistically?
He's a very, very technical player. He's the kind of player that I love to see in the stadium, because when he gets the ball, you can feel that now there could be something big in weight. He can do things there's no one else. He's very, very good at dribbling. He can get the ball in standing. He's not the kind of winger who's only he's beating his men by speed. It's by dribbling, it's by technique, it's by ability, and it's very, very delightful to see when he can go past 2-3 men with dribbles and create things, and he's the kind of player who also the kind of what can you can explain this as a kind of street football. He's educated on the street, and you can see that when he's playing on the field, he likes doing things that is not normal. I see him making the Rabona to make crosses. I seen him to use his heel to play a teammate free for a goal, and he dares do something that's not the wisest thing to do and not the most effective things to do, but he dares do it because he's that kind of player who does that. So he's really a crowd pleaser, I think.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of someone that used to play for Beşiktaş. I don't know if you will be familiar with him. I think you will be. Ricardo Quaresma.
Yeah, I just thought about you'll mention him, but I think it's right that he could remind me of Quaresma also.
Yeah. Do you think that this is something that will translate as well to maybe a slightly higher level? I think, for example, in the big games against Copenhagen, does he show himself in those matches too? Does he put a
Yeah,
stamp on those games?
yeah, he does. He does. I remember a game away against Copenhagen where he almost single-handedly was a threat for Copenhagen. I remember that in a couple of rival games, he and Viborg, big rivalry against FC Midtjylland. In this time, in a couple of rival games, he's done magic. In his first derby in here in Viborg, he made a fantastic goal. You should find it on YouTube. He did where he, in very little place, he got himself through and made a goal. It was a fantastic goal. I never forget it. I was there in the stadium the day it happened, and also one of the last derbies against Midtjylland, he was also so big a threat that Midtjylland were very hard tackling him, and that was after that game he got injured because they couldn't cope with him. He dribbled past and was a threat, and they were very hard at him. So he also in the big games he's able to do something.
What kind of an injury did he suffer?
It was something with the knee. Here in Denmark, there's rules that you cannot get a lot of details about the injuries. It's some kind of the personal things that you don't. It's not you're not allowed to get to know it. So it's a little bit hard to get the details. But it was the knee that was something he told me in an interview in the ending of 2024. He told me in an interview that it was the knee.
But he wasn't out for too long then, I guess.
A couple of months he was out, and also it took a little bit longer than expected because they also needed to be sure that he was totally ready to play. So it took a couple of weeks longer. He could have played a little bit before, but Viborg and Serginho didn't need to take any chances. They needed him to be totally ready before he played.
And so you've interviewed him in the past. Has he ever told you anything about who his idols are in football, who he strives to be like, or anything like that?
No, the only thing here, because in the beginning he was not very good in English, so it was a little bit hard to interview him because I'm not familiar in Portuguese. Mm-hmm. So he told me about the thing I mentioned about the street football, and he was growing up, and he also wanted to represent that he was a street footballer, but and also that he thought. He has been playing like Ilias Achuri, who was here before, but never an idol like that. He has told me about.
Okay. And are you surprised that he selected to play for Cape Verde? He is also eligible to play. Well, he was also eligible to play for Portugal at least. Do you think that he maybe made a decision a little bit too quickly? Do you think he's a player that could potentially play for the Portuguese national team if it wasn't for that he already picked a different nation?
No, it's hard for me to say why. I'd have never told he never told me anything about why and so on. And I think there's a lot of good Portuguese wingers, so I think perhaps it's a good thing for him to choose Cape Verde.
Are you surprised that he ended up in the Danish competition? You mean he's from the Benfica Academy? It's an academy that's world renowned, of course. And are you surprised that maybe he didn't succeed in Portugal?
No, Viborg in a couple of years they have been very good at scouting in Portugal and picking up these players who is perhaps a little bit waiting for going through in Portugal. They did the same with Ilias Achuri, and they tried the same with other players. And Serginho was one of these players that they scouted in Portugal. They are very good at scouting in Portugal, so I'm not surprised that Viborg were looking that way. You can get a lot of players who could see Denmark as a place to grow and make a career. And both Viborg and other teams are doing that. So I'm not surprised to see a player like Serginho going to Denmark.
Mm-hmm. And now with the recent appointment of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as the new coach of Beşiktaş, and Erling Mo, who was a coach of Molde for many years and who is known to scout the Danish Superliga quite regularly. Are you surprised that suddenly Beşiktaş are linked, and do you think there's a connection there?
I don't know about that, but I know the Danish league are very well scouted for clubs all over Europe. I've seen that in the stands when I'm there, so I'm not surprised that a club like Besiktas are looking also in Viborg. I'm not surprised about that.
Would you think that he is ready for a next step already, or do you think it's maybe a little bit early? You mentioned he's been at the club now for 1.5 years, and I think now you're starting to see the real potential of the player. Last season was still a little bit ups and downs, as you said. Do you think he still maybe needs another season or so under his belt, or do you think he's already ready for that next step, maybe to Copenhagen, for example, or abroad?
I think, it could be a little bit a long answer, but I'll try to do it as
Take your
short as I
time.
can.
Take your
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Take your time.
because in the first season, Serginho was he was still learning. He should learn that you should work hard for the team, because if you don't do that, there's not a place for you in a club like Viborg or in the Danish league. That's the style of play in Denmark. You need to work hard also. He needed to learn that, and that took some time. And in that time, he was in and out from the team. He was benched in a lot of. He wasn't a regular player in all the first season. But when he learned that, you can see also he's able to do that, and he can do that part of the game also. After that, in all the first season, he needed to learn that regardless that we like to see all these technical things he can do, and he got the ability, you also need to be an effective football player. You need to put numbers on, you need to put goals in, you need to make assists, because he played well, and you can see that he was a very, very skilled player, but he didn't make assists, he didn't make a lot of goals in the first season in Viborg, because he was sometimes playing too much with his dribbles and so on. He did too much of it,
Playing
and
his
it
own game, essentially.
yeah, and that was what he needed to learn, and it was the first season. Now he's got this half season where he was good, and you could see that he was able to make a lot of assists and be a huge profile for Viborg in the offensive. But it was a half season that he's done it, and regardless that he was good in this first half season, he still needs to learn something. He's not scoring a lot of goals. I have been critical about him, about his finishing. He's getting a lot of shots in, and getting a far amount of chances. He's shooting a lot, but he isn't hitting the goal, and it's not a lot of goals that is coming directly from Serginho. He's making a lot of assists, and also the second assist, as they call it, where he creates the attack leading to a goal. That's very good, and he's very good at that. But I still think he needs to learn to be effective when he's going to shoot himself, when his finishing isn't very good. And that's about the timing. I think that now he could go, because you could see that he's got the potential for playing in a bigger club than Viborg. But I think if I were his agent, I would advise him to wait for half a season more, because of the injury.
Yeah.
I think he could be better off playing a very, very good half season for Viborg, perhaps getting a lot of goals in, a lot of assists, perhaps playing in a cup final, or what it would happen in Viborg, and then I think he will be a better himself this summer in a summer move. But yeah, that's only my opinion. That a half season more in Denmark or in Viborg would be the best for him, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I know for Besiktas, perhaps it wouldn't be good, because I think it would be even more expensive the summer if it succeeded in the spring.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Beşiktaş will be looking for bargains, so to speak, in Scandinavia and other regions, because Beşiktaş are another club that's usually spend very high transfer fees, especially they spent they actually broke their transfer record twice last season. They paid 10 million for Ernest Mucci from the Polish league, and then they paid 12 million for Al Musrati from Braga from the Portuguese league last season. but the club is not in a great financial situation, so they are looking at opportunity signings where they can find players that aren't on the radar yet of the big European clubs before, kind of what Viborg did by finding Serginho in Portugal. But I think the way you describe it, Serginho in Portugal wouldn't have been a good signing for Beşiktaş, because at Beşiktaş you don't have the time to learn these important aspects of the game, like what you described, where you need to learn that you have to play not just your own game, but also you have to play for the team, you have to work hard, you have to maybe track back, defend, all those types of things. You don't have that time in Beşiktaş. You don't get 2 years to become polished. So you need to already be somewhat developed. So they are looking at the next step in that chain, so to speak. So where Serginho would be now. The question is then, is he still affordable? Because the price tag might be a problem. I don't know what the record signing or the record sale for Viborg is currently.
It was Anton Guy who was going to Ajax for 1.5 years ago. I think it was about 35-40 million. It's Danish kroner. Back then, I think it was around that. It was the press mentioned these prices back then, so it's a record for Viborg.
And I think what that roughly is in euros?
I think it was about between 4 and 5 million euros. I think I'm not sure. So.
See, I think that's already kind of pushing it a little bit. Maybe I think Beşiktaş will probably be looking for players in the range of 3.5, 4.5 million, maybe. And
it could be that that could be the price, but I think. The situation in Viborg right now is that the club is well financed, so Viborg doesn't need to sell. Viborg doesn't need to sell, and if you ask the chief in Viborg, the sporting chief, he's mentioning that Viborg is a selling club. That's kind of the strategy, that you need to sell players, but right now. Also, if you're going to sell, the price has to be right. It has to be the right price for Viborg. It has to be the right place for a player like Serginho to go. But it doesn't. Viborg doesn't need to sell. They just sold in this window. They sold Magnus Vestergaard to England, to Wickham, and they did make kind of a great sale for a player, and they don't need to sell right now. And that's the situation, that they don't need. On the other hand, also Viborg is a club who's taking players in like Serginho, and the plan is that they're going to sell him. So on the one hand, Viborg is needing to get a great price for him, but on the other hand, the plan with Serginho and the agreement with a player like Serginho is that Viborg also want to sell him in a place. So that's also the timing, and also the thing when is it the right time, is the price right? So it could be that the Serginho and Viborg are agreed. It's a great time now, but it also could be that Viborg is convincing Serginho about that. Half a year more, and then we are more. We want to sell you.
Yeah. And you mentioned as well off air that yesterday they played a friendly match, and Serginho started in that game, and he came off after 35 minutes because of the artificial turf, and maybe not wanting to take too many risks with his knee just having come back from an injury. Do you think that in the back of his mind, maybe a transfer is playing a part as well, that he doesn't want to jeopardize a potential move by getting injured again?
Of course, it could be also. But I asked the coach about it yesterday. He said it didn't. It didn't was about any transfer speculations and so on. But of course, regardless if it's a transfer, or regardless that we're nearing the season, they didn't want to take chances with Serginho, and also think Serginho also knows that is not great timing if he's going to get a new injury right now.
Yeah. You also mentioned there's an important cup game coming up against Copenhagen.
It's in a couple of months, so there's time yet.
Yeah, there's time, but maybe that's also what plays a part in the ambition of the club. Maybe they think to themselves, okay, we will sell him in the summer because we have a good chance. Maybe I noticed that you guys played Copenhagen early. Well, Viborg played Copenhagen earlier in the season. I believe the game ended 1-1, and at least statistically, according to FotMob, Serginho was the man of the match. I believe he got an assist in that game. So clearly, Viborg are a team that can be a problem for a team like Copenhagen. So there's certainly a chance for them to maybe pull off an upset and go to the semi-final. Is it the semi-finals or is it the finals
Yeah,
already?
it is. It is the semi-final, 2 games against Copenhagen. So
Okay.
if they beat Copenhagen, they're in the cup final. And you're right. That's Viborg in this season. Viborg has shown that they can win against any team in the Superliga. They showed that by playing a very good match against Copenhagen. They should have won that game. They were the best team, and also they beat Midtjylland. So they can beat everyone in the Superliga, but they can also lose to everyone. So that's a quite unstable team this season.
It's a little bit on a whim, maybe, if the right players have a good day and if they're focused enough, they don't make mistakes. Because obviously when you make a mistake against a team like FC Copenhagen, you get into problems. We have seen them in the Champions League over the last couple of years, also against Galatasaray, and they're a quality side, always are a quality side, really. So a player that Turkish fans will be more familiar with perhaps is Aral Şimşir from Midtjylland.
From the rival FC Midtjylland.
Exactly. How would you say he compares to Aral, for example? They're roughly the same age. He's also a highly rated talent, but statistically, I don't think he's putting up the same numbers yet. How would you say they compare?
You can say that they can do some of the same things. They are very good dribblers, and they are, what I would call offensive motors. They are the ones who can make things happen in the attack, in kind of the same way. Where it's not because they are fast. They are not the kind of player who's just run past the defenders by speed, but I think the technical ability, their flair, their kind of ability to create chances, their ability to get into the box and see good passes into the box, they are roughly the same, I think. You can compare them.
Yeah, one thing you did mention a few times now is that he very heavily relies on his excellent technical ability, his dribbling ability. I have noticed that as well when I was watching some videos, and actually I have one playing at the moment as we are speaking. I was wondering, because I was wondering when I was watching these videos as well, like how fast is he? Because I don't have the feeling he uses his speed a lot. Like, I haven't noticed that he, for example, sometimes just decides to put it past the defender and just run. Sometimes that's what you have to do. You can't always walk up to a guy and start dribbling. Sometimes you need to use the space in behind. How good is he at using his speed? And how fast is he?
I think he's good at using his explosiveness, if you can say that. He's the first couple of steps he can get past the defender. He's good at that, at changing the tempo. But he's not the kind of players that you play through a long ball and then he's running, beating his opponent by running. I don't think he's a player like that. It's more short sprints and the ability to change tempo and to feint the defender by doing that.
Yeah. So Beşiktaş fans have been clamoring for a winger for a while now. Somebody who can be the creative fulcrum of a team. Somebody that is going to be essentially the playmaker on the wings. Do you think that Serginho fits that mold?
Yeah, I think he is very creative and he can be the one who creates a lot of things for a team. So he can do that.
Yeah. I checked some numbers as well when it comes to that, and he has a very impressive chance creation per 90 minutes. In fact, I believe this season he is close to 3 chances per game, 2.84. His chance creation stats are very impressive. You mentioned before his set pieces are excellent, but how good is he in open play? How many chances does he? How Yeah, how easily does he create chances from open play?
He creates this very easily because he's the one. We get him the ball and he'll make something happen. And in some games where when he's the best, you can just give the ball to him and he will dribble by one or two defenders and then make a cross. He can make very good passes to his teammates and so on. So he is very well also in open play. It's not just from set pieces that he's making the assist.
And how do we have to imagine that? Is it mostly a crosser? Is he mostly a crossing merchant, or is he also somebody that can play the killer through ball?
He can also play the killer balls, and he can also make the cutbacks, and he can also make spectacular things. I think if you find a game from last season away against Odense, against OB, he made an assist to a player called Ibrahim Said, where his Serginho was going into the box, and then by some way he made a trick pass back to Serginho, who kicked it in. And he can also make that kind of assist. He can also make the small chips, the small passes when he's nearing the box and playing an attacker going to the deep. So he is not just crossing.
How about linking up with teammates? Is he somebody that holds on to the ball maybe a little bit too much, or is he somebody that's also looking for the 1-2 combinations and not afraid to give their teammates time on the ball?
It's so. I think still he sometimes holds too much onto the ball himself, and also when he's playing in the right side, I've seen that he's best if it's the fullback is just keeping away. He's not always good at a fullback who's going past him and playing. He can do that, but I think it's best to give Serginho the ball and give him the space, and then he will create it himself. That's the way he's best. But we also seen him linking great up with the attackers or some of the midfielders, and also with the fullback sometimes. So he can do it, but I think he's best with the ball when he's doing the things himself.
Okay, and then finally, you mentioned that over the last 6 months or so, he has really learned to work for the team more. Is he somebody that is capable of playing in a pressing game, a high pressing game, and will do his chores? And also defensively, is he somebody that's going to track back?
Yeah, that was what he learned in the first 6 months, and I think in the last year, in whole 2024, he learned that. He worked really, really hard, also defensively, and Viborg is playing a game where they are pressing high, so he also does his chores in the pressing game. He also runs back and helps his fullback as good as he can. It's not his favorite, and you can see that, but he's doing it, and he's doing it.
And it doesn't result in him maybe being spent after 60 minutes or so. Can he play a full 90 minutes at a high tempo like that?
He has been doing that in Viborg, so he's able to do that. I think he's able to run a lot in a game.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a very exciting young player, and hopefully for Beşiktaş, somebody that will materialize, a move that potentially will materialize, and maybe for Viborg, hopefully something that they'll hold off until the summer before it materializes.
It would be nice to keep in a half season more, but we know all in Viborg, all in Denmark know that Serginho is going to a bigger club at some time, so it's only a question of when he's going away.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, Danny. And thank you all for watching as well, of course, to the Black Eagles podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, then do consider going to patreon.com/Beşiktaş podcast. You will gain early access to all sorts of videos just like this. And you will also, of course, gain access to our VIP podcast. If you're watching on Patreon, thank you very much for your support. And also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much, and see you next time.